Hello and welcome to the Standoff Show. This comes with a public health warning. You might have to get up and move around. Otherwise, you might get deep throat thrombosis like you do if you're sat for a long time on an airplane, because Brad says he's got lots of news. Evening, Brad.
Evening. You stole my intro. Yeah, there's been a lot of news today, so we'll do our best to try to cover everything without going on forever. But yeah, welcome to the Send Off with Brad and Richie. We're episode 24 of season 4. We are live every Wednesday on Facebook, YouTube, all those places throughout the season. Evening, Richie. The Warriors got our heart racing on Friday night, but got the job done in Golden Point and set up the weekend nicely. How are you going, and what did you think of the round?
I'm very good, thank you, Brad. The Warriors indeed did give us a scare, but the best part was we came out of it with the win, and we'll cover that. But yeah, I enjoyed the rest of the round. I hope your weekend was well. Was it good?
Yeah, it was good.
Good.
And yeah, we got the women back as well, so we'll cover that briefly tonight too. But while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show at your convenience. You got something to say, Paul? You're jumping in.
I don't understand how you can like the round. I mean, look, we had 2 picks to make, and we got one wrong. I mean, seriously, we actually get. How can you like that round?
Anytime Melbourne loses, whenever Melbourne lose, everybody wins.
We lost the multi, but the Storm losing helped our Warriors. So
yeah,
you know, I take that. But yeah, as always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of round 21 and round 1 of the NRLW, and an update on our tips. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you guys, as well as some questions we got for each other. We'll then preview round 22 and make our picks before ending the night with a recap of Super League. So just remember to send questions and comments throughout the show, and we'll do our best to answer them. And we may as well jump into this massive news section today, Richie.
Yeah, let's do it.
I've got a stack of text here, which is intimidating me. But first one, the 2023 NRL and NRLW Grand Finals will be played at a core stadium. We kind of already assumed that, but it's now official. It's a 1-year deal with the NRL, as the NRL is still looking at other options in 2024 potentially. So what's your thoughts, Richie?
Yep, all good. Next. No, Sydney's mostly been the home of grand finals, isn't it? So
all but one.
We've had one now at Suncorp, which obviously they love it. It's a great spectacle, but of course, it's a great stadium as well. So you just know it's going to be a full house and a good day, and hopefully we're there.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Should they do kind of Super Bowl and move it every single year?
There's not enough big stadiums for it, to be honest. In America, they have that ability because they've got these giant stadiums, but here you really got 2, 3 if you include Eden Park, which no one wants to go to.
No.
Next one, Josh Hodgson's reportedly told his Eel teammates that he is going to retire due to his neck injury. Disappointing for him, but I'm not that surprised. He kind of had a lot of issues with his neck before he signed the deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, disappointing for him, but as we'll cover in the signing news, the Eels have already made a move to fill his spot.
They have plans.
Yeah.
No, it's he started to break down the past couple of years, hasn't he? So
yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up, being what happens. But he's been a great hooker a few years ago. It was right up there.
Yeah, definitely. And next one, Alex Johnston's moved into the 3rd all-time try scorers with 181. Billy Slater's 2nd with 190. And Ken Irvine is at top still, obviously, with 212. You reckon old AJ can get past Billy this year?
This year yeah. I mean, I was going to say, looking at the numbers, this year might be a stretch, but when it comes to AJ, it's probably doable, given that when he scores tries, he tends to score them in 2s or 3s. He he likes grabbing multiples, so it's possible.
And the Rabbitohs are playing the Tigers this week.
Yeah, he could grab a few.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll always keep on the AJ watch. So hopefully we can see some movement there. Next one, Simon's here. Evening, Simon. Kind of relates to you. Ricky Stewart had taken a shot at officials after his side's lost to the Warriors, stating the match should never have gone to Golden Point and that the Raiders should have been given a penalty try for the Dylan Wataniza-Lesniak high shot on Sebastian Chris. I watched Graham Ellerslie in his always enjoyable roundup. And
he had our back for once.
He did have our back. He did a million different angles to show the tackle and said it was completely fine. He had actually a really good one that was kind of from behind them. So you see when the hand came up, it didn't move the head.
Yeah.
So he's saying like there's effectively no contact. I can see Ricky like straight after the game being disappointed, but yeah, I think the more you look at it, I think the more it's fine. And I think Gordon Tallis on 360 had a good argument saying like if you penalize this accidental slap in the face, does that mean every time there's an accidental slap on the face in any tackle on the field, would you penalize it? And they're like, well, no, you wouldn't.
Would you be happy giving that as a penalty in a grand final to decide a game? Definitely not.
As Simon says, Ricky Stewart's right all the time. Well, we'll agree to disagree, but I do enjoy watching Ricky's post matches. So, yeah, I feel for him, but at the same time, the Warriors won, so I don't. But yeah, next one. Anthony Albanese's pledged $5.5 million to develop rugby league in Papua New Guinea. He's a strong advocate of PNG being the 18th NRL side. It sounds like they're really putting everything they can to make sure PNG becomes that 18th team. $5.5 million to help develop rugby league over there is great, even if they don't become the 18th team. Just developing footy over there, I think's great for the international game that we never get. But yeah, what's your take on that? And do you? I think I wouldn't mind bringing Paul into this because I saw a comment, a post from him a while back. My only concern with Papua New Guinea becoming the 18th team is that it becomes basically a place for the other clubs just to take their best talent. Like Moana Pacifica, they've lost a handful to the Highlanders and Crusaders recently. And it's kind of going against what the envision for like Moana Pacifica and in this case Papua New Guinea would be. You want to make that a good team, but you don't want to like do it a bit like Counties Manukau Rugby. The cream of the crop gets taken to the top dog teams. So like half Papua New Guinea's best players may end up being Roosters a year after they hit the ground running. I know you can't really go in there and say, don't touch these players. It's counterintuitive to the business, but I don't know. It's like a background fear of mine when you see these places with such great talent just become feeding grounds for the guys with all the money.
But even if they do that, then from the international game, it'll still promote the Papua New Guinea as a sort of international team and strengthen them, even if their players are playing for the Roosters or whatever. Look, it's as Simon and Jacko say, that this is all about geopolitics rather than necessarily about the NRL. That basically Australia is the Aussie government is trying to sort of bankroll or promote this. Mark Roberts says that PNG are playing in the Hunters in the Queensland Cup. Look, there's already a pathway there. It's just, I'm all for expanding it to new countries, and maybe it could also be used to help the Papua New Guinea economy, full stop, and just use it like a bit like sort of tourism and all that kind of side of things.
Yeah,
you looked at it from comparing it to Moana Pacifica, Brad. But if you look at the other expansion side there, Fiji and Drua, and the crowds they get for their games. They get amazing crowds and do a real good job, I think. So I would kind of liken Papua New Guinea and how crazy they are about rugby league to Fiji and how crazy they are about rugby union.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping it works out well. I still have a lot of, old sores from counties Manukau getting depleted in rugby union. So,
Oh, yeah.
Basically, obviously, we would like to see a second team in New Zealand for a start. There are various safety and I guess corruption, those sort of issues as well, concerns with Papua New Guinea. So, I mean, there are a number of issues there. But I think it would be good to. I'd like to see NRL have a team in Tonga as well. Personally, there you go. That's just me.
Take half the Warriors team, so I don't want that. But speaking of New Zealand, how you just talked about a second team here, it's rumored that New Zealand's reached out to NRL to formally express interest in having a State of Origin match at Eden Park. I think we both commented on it during the week, Richie.
Yep.
We've both said that we would love to see an Origin game here, but I still would rather New Zealand put money into getting more tests.
Yeah, definitely.
Personally, as a Kiwi. So as great as it is to see an Origin game come here, for one, it's going to the wrong stadium. And two, I would rather just see the Kiwis.
Yeah, most definitely.
You're sad facing me, Paul. Why?
It just makes no sense to me to have it over here, put bluntly. It's a State of Origin. The origin is Australia. It's not. The origin isn't from New Zealand. It's State of Origin. States. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it where it's home.
Most of the guys
matches.
playing in Origin now weren't born in Australia, so it's fine.
I think they would definitely sell it out very quickly in Auckland. It is very well supported. From that point of view, it wouldn't be unsuccessful, but give us test matches. Kiwis versus Kangaroos. Kiwis versus Tonga. Kiwis versus Samoa. Be more than happy to host those.
Yeah, and okay, so we'll see what happens there. But more tests, please. We'll go into Bulldogs. Bulldogs are featured heavily in here, as I told you before we jumped on. Bulldogs have signed half the NRL. But the first bit of news before we go into signings, they've advised apparently Ryan Sutton and Raymond Mariner that they're no longer needed and can explore options elsewhere. Sutton was only signed last year, and Raymond had his contract extended until the end of 25, only last season. Gus Gould has come out and said all of these rumors are wrong. So time will tell. Looking at the amount of players that they're bringing in, some players have to go. I know they've got a lot off contract anyway, but it's surprising. And it's conflicting stories. Like Raymond's manager came out and said the club's not told them any of this, but there's also rumors that his manager's been out talking to other clubs. So if he was already talking, someone must have told him something. But what's your take on that? Ryan never really hit the ground running. And Raymond's been there forever.
He has. One thing that's clear to me is the Dogs, they've been in the market, obviously, the past couple of years. They need change. That they've got some good pieces to the puzzle. Still, it's not gelling yet. And as you'll probably go forth and mention in the next bits of the news, they're starting to make some more signings now. So, I don't think they're going to sit around on the status quo, given the way that they've been performing. They've been conceding big scores nearly every week this season. So,
Yeah, and the rest of the Bulldogs news will be in the next section about signings. So we'll keep with our stories. Dragons clean-out is beginning. The clubs apparently advised Jaden Sullivan, Zane Musgrove, and Jaden Hunt that they will not be kept, with Musgrove and Jay Hunt free to leave right now. However, Shane Flanagan has come out and said he's confident that Ben Hunt and Zach Lomax will remain with the side next season. What's your take there? There's rumors. I know a few weeks ago they were saying Jaden Sullivan was going to be a Bulldog. Judging by some of the announcements they've made today, I don't think that's likely. So he could potentially be a Tiger, maybe. I don't know. But what's your take on? They're a bit like the Bulldogs. They need a clean out. So
Yeah, they do. They do. They must be confident of keeping Ben Hunt if they're letting Jaden Sullivan go, who's an up and comer in the halves positions, who's got some good reps on him, and he's shown glimpses when he's had game time. But yeah, you're right, Brad. I think they're in a position where they need to effect change, and they will be, given that Flanagan's coming on board.
They're a disaster, as we know. I can just see Jaden Sullivan leaving, and then at the end of this season, Ben Hunt leaving.
Superstar.
Then they've got no halves at all.
Yeah.
And we'll be in trouble all over again.
And then Sullivan will go become a superstar somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Dragons are the gift that keep on giving, so I'm sure we'll have more news about them next week. Papua New Guinea, I know we just talked about them. They're looking at hosting a Tri-Nations in the postseason between themselves, Fiji, and the Cook Islands. So I think it's great. I'm an advocate of getting more international games, and it's good to see some of these second-tier teams actually working together and trying to get their own game sorted, as opposed to just waiting for being invited by Australia when they can be bothered, or New Zealand when they can be bothered. So it's good to see that. And Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and Cook Islands is a good mix in terms of competitive levels. So it's not like you've got Papua New Guinea, Australia, New Zealand, where Papua New Guinea gets spanked every week and it doesn't really, provide much. But those are all three teams that can be competitive against each other. And it's great. It's them and it's Tonga, isn't it? Tonga's the one going up. Tonga's going up north. So it's those three in Tonga are the only ones interested in playing Test right now. But yeah, full credit to them.
Yeah. They play a good brand of footy too, those teams. They're always enjoyable to watch. So I would be tuning in for sure.
Yeah. And before we get into our final bit of news, there's a bit of noise around Jerome Luai, as there always is. He's been rumored to have split with his management company. He's apparently given them 90 days notice and will be looking for new management. And there's every week the noise gets louder that he's going to be a Bulldog. The Panthers have come out and said that they believe they can re-sign both Luai and Edwards. But the noise is they're not going to have enough money to keep both. Time will tell with what happens, but Bulldogs is Panthers B, so it would make sense if he ended up there. But what's your take on this whole situation? There was other news about him with this breakup. He's lost some big third-party deal or something. But
interesting rumors that he might go to the Bulldogs. I think the Bulldogs are kind of set in the number 6 position, so I don't know whether he'd be going there to play halfback.
I assume he'd be going as a halfback and Burton at 6.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But maybe it sheds some more light on why the Panthers have looked at someone like Dane Laurie coming back. Maybe it's a bit of a contingency plan.
I think that is the case, and we'll talk about that in signings. So, last bit of news before we go into signings. The RLPA NRL war continues to rage on. The players are now rumored to be considering boycotting the Dally M award night since there's been no progress in talks since they stopped talking to media. So I guess it's them doubling down. They refused to talk to the media. The world kept spinning. We apparently aren't that upset that we don't have to listen to credit to the boys after games every week. I'm disappointed if that's the case, because this is a year where we have a team that has players that could be in contention. So I would like to see them actually receive their awards. So I'm biased there. Jacko's also mentioned that the players are hinting they'll cover up the NRL logo on their jerseys. I don't think that will work, because they already threatened to do that at the start of the year and then they chickened out. That's the problem. I think the players are the NRL is clearly showing that they have drawn a line in the sand and saying this is where we are, and they're not budging. The NRL players keep throwing up threats and either do it half-hearted, like we're not going to speak to media, but only on these days. These days we will.
Yeah.
So I feel like the more it drags on, the more power the NRL is getting in this argument. But what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to come around to. You even said it was either last week or the week before that the longer this drags on, the more it's painting the players in the bad light, and I'm kind of coming around to that way of thinking as well. You're right; it's a media boycott, but it's a bit pick and choosy, and they're not really getting any traction with it. So let's boycott the Dally M's. So they know they're not winning with what they're doing with the media. So yeah.
Yeah, and like what Jacko said, the only way to do it if you want to take advantage of the NRL and take control is to stop playing. Because the only way you're going to make the NRL change their mind is if you hit them in the pocket, and the only way you hit them in the pocket is if they're not playing, because then they lose money on their contract agreement. So, but they won't do that. You're not going to get, especially you get guys from the Panthers say, yeah, we're not going to play. And then you, knowing what the Storm are like, they'll be like, yeah, no, we're not going to play. And then they will go, we can take that minor premiership spot because everyone else isn't playing. And yeah, Warriors, they'll go all the way. We'll play through. We'll be fine. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's never going to end. I feel like neither party is willing to take a backward step. So yeah. We'll continue talking about it forever, I assume. So we'll move on to signings because there's lots. And yeah, Jacko said they won't strike because the issue is not really that big. Yeah, but because it's not that big, that's why the NRL aren't willing to budge. And yeah, Mark says, it's what happens when you have a former night running things. They don't know how to win anything. Yeah,
that's not nice, Mark.
It's
good though. I like
it's
that.
Not wrong. It's not wrong.
It's not wrong at all.
I think we said that ages ago that he's out of his element for this type of agreement. So signings, Bulldogs. They've signed Liam Knight effective immediately on an 18-month contract from the Rabbits. There's also rumours that they're very close to signing Takiao, who just left the Roosters to go to Catalans. There's rumours that they could have him back on a 2-year deal as early as next year. And they've apparently signed the Wheat Gutter Dog, Jermaine Salmon, and Blake Taff for next season, but no official announcements being made yet. So lot of movement with the Bulldogs. What's your take on those signings, both confirmed and rumoured?
Yeah, well, so Liam Knight is confirmed, isn't it? That's a solid one for. It's a solid one for them. You know, it's in areas where they're lacking a bit of depth. If they end up landing people like Blake Taff, that's another really good one for their backline. I'm pretty certain Stephen Crichton will be going there to play fullback, but I know Taff has a history of playing in the halves as well, so that they are a bit skinny there. What other ones did you throw my way? There were a few.
Salmon and Takiao.
Takiao is he obviously is a proven winner, came from a winning culture. I think he's in his early 30s now, 32, I believe. But so it's getting up there a bit in age, but when you look at what the Dolphins have done, bringing over experienced forwards like Bromwich and Felice Kafusi, it's actually balanced their squad nicely. So, that I think that would have a good effect on the Bulldogs if they were able to land him.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll rattle off the next few. There was an interesting, almost a player swap, except as always, the Dragons didn't get anything out of it. But the Dragons have granted Moses Mbai an immediate release to join St. Helens. St. Helens, in turn, let Joey Lussick out of his contract early, and he has gone to join the Eels immediately, which kind of makes sense with that Hodgson news we talked about. But the Dragons get nothing out of it, I guess. But I think that's a good – Moses Mbai will kill it up there. And Joey Lussick, I think he's a handy.
Yep.
He's a handy player for Parramatta. Any news you want to add on that, or can we move on?
No, keep going.
Panthers, you just briefly talked about it. Dane Laurie is official now. He signed a 1-year deal with the Panthers. Think it's great for him. He's not getting any chance really at the Tigers. He got to play in the weekend, and I thought he looked really good.
Yeah.
Kind of to the point where you're like, why the hell aren't they playing him every week? But I think it's a good move for him. Kind of puts a bit of strength on. Maybe he's there as a potential to replace Luai if he goes. But 1-year deal to prove himself and extend if he can. I think it's great. And Rue said the second best Dane Laurie to play for the Panthers. And then Tigers, they've also extended Api Coruscant for a further 2 years until the end of 2026. Rabbits have extended Tavita Totola until the end of 2028, which I'm upset about because I would love him in a Warriors jersey because I love that guy.
Yep.
And Warriors have extended centre Adam Pompey until the end of 2025. And this has seen them allow Viliami Valia to leave early and join the Cowboys on a 2-year deal starting next season. So I just threw a whole lot of them at you. What's your thoughts? I think Coruscant Totola makes sense. The Pompey one, I think you were going to talk about a bit more.
Coruscant's going to enjoy the extra time off this year. I think that's why he's extended there. I think it was always going to be a case of one of those centers from the Warriors signing on and probably trimming another. So that's what we've seen. Pompey staying on, Valia moving on, and I think watching how everything's unfolded this year, Valia. I think we've even discussed this off the show. He hasn't exactly been setting the world on fire, even at New South Wales Cup levels. Pompey is very polarizing as a player, but
he's the enigma.
He is. But I think with Roger coming next year, we'll see Pompey as a depth player.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I said that this year, and he's the only player I think that's played every game.
Well, unless they go Roger one centre and Pompey the other, and then Berry becomes the backup. But I see more upside in Berry personally. Others may disagree.
Yeah, and I've made it both in my reviews that I write and the show here. I am not Pompey's biggest fan by any stretch, but he's done a lot of good this year. He's done a lot of bad as well. And it's Webster has now made the decision to keep Pompey, so we obviously see something in him, and it's up to him to make Pompey more of the good and less of the bad. And Jacko said Valia has heaps of potential but doesn't seem hungry. Rumors that I've heard that I can't confirm is that he's a very lazy trainer, which is apparently another reason why he's fallen down the pecking order. Maybe Todd Payton can get something out of him. But time will tell. So we'll move on. Injuries. Quite a few of those too, Richie. Cowboys look set to have lost Jeremiah Nanai for 4 to 6 weeks after he injured his shoulder. Would return in the finals if the Cowboys get that far. Manly have lost Taniela Paseka for an MCL and Josh Aloiai for a dislocated shoulder, both potentially to miss the rest of the season. Spencer Leniu injured his MCL. There's no word how long he'll be out for, but it could be a bit of time. Sean Lane from the Eels dislocated his elbow. Also not sure how long he's going to be gone for. Couple of weeks at the least. Warrior Murata Nakore failed an HIA, but due to having a bye, he won't miss any games with the 11-day stand down. And Dale Finucane from the Sharks, season's over.
He's gone.
After he injured his bicep in the weekend and has had surgery, and they said he is out. So a few big names in there, Richie.
Yep.
I think, to be honest, I think Nanai is probably the biggest loss in terms of teams looking for finals, because I feel like Sharks are on the way out anyway. But Nanai is an integral part of that Cowboys outfit. Spencer is very good for the Panthers, but they're a team that can take a player or two missing, and they've still
cover
got
that.
Fisher Harris and Leota. So
For me, I'm happy that the least serious one out of that list is Alwyn Niagore. He won't miss any game time. Nanai's the big one. He's come back from Origin in a purple patch, just like the rest of his team. So I'm hoping him not being there slows them a little. Because they're worrying me. But I get the feeling that they've got good second rows to cover him anyway.
Yeah, now Mark's confirmed that Paseka is out for the season and Lenu out for 4 to 6 weeks.
The Sean Lane one looked nasty. Your elbow's not meant to look like that.
No, it was fantastic. Horrible accident.
Yeah.
Naughty boy and girl corner now because the girls are back. Marty Tapau is out for 3 weeks for a grade 3 dangerous contact of trying to knee people in the head when he runs. He was warned about it last week, didn't listen, and it could have ended very badly, the one he got in trouble for. But some boys just don't learn. Marty hasn't been around that long. He's only been in the NRL for like a decade. But he'll get there. Tarek Sims from the Storm, he's got 2 matches for a grade 2 high tackle. Jesse Clockhound, I think is how you say the name. I'm not sure. It's got 1 match for a grade 2 dangerous contact. Jesse Arthur's also got a match for a high tackle. And then the girls, Maya Middleton got 2 matches for a grade 2 dangerous throw. It was an awesome looking spear tackle. But not allowed. And then Bronco Ashley Warner, 2 matches for biting. Thought we'd come a bit away from that in the NRL, but
I think she had her mouth, her face was getting stuffed with the tackler's arm though. So I think if you kind of getting the old arm across the face, that's a pretty effective way to remove the arm.
Yes. But you shouldn't do it. But
it's not allowed, of course. But
so that's all of it. Nothing too controversial there. I think the one thing I will mention we didn't talk about in the news. It was good to see the Valentine Holmes didn't get a suspension for his tackle. He did get a fine.
It was a beautiful tackle.
It was a good tackle, and it was just he hit Mitch Moses so hard that he whiplashed. And if you're going to start penalizing people for whiplash, we've got to start taking tackles out of this. I don't know.
I mean, then it's not only the height of your tackle; it's the force of your tackle. Yeah, you meant to tackle more softly now.
Yeah. It was a good hit. It's why I used it as a picture for our promo for the show today. So that was all the news. Only took us half an hour, which is quicker than I thought. And Nicholas said Brisbane need to have more bite in their attack in the NRLW. I was going to say something about the NRLW, but we'll talk about that in the review of it. So first game, Richie, the Spoon Bowl. Dragons defeating the Tigers 18-14.
I joke, it wasn't the greatest match, but it was 3 tries apiece. Tyrell Sloan, Zach Lomax, and Revalawa for the Dragons. Junior Tupou with 2, and Api Korosal with 1 try for the Tigers. Did you manage to stay awake through this one?
Oh, it was a struggle. But, it was kind of what we expected here, really, to be honest, for a match for the Spoon. The Dragons, I thought they made plenty of errors, but they got the job done basically due to Zach Lomax and his boot. Their only remaining chance to get a win this year, I believe. So full credit to them for doing just enough for that to happen. And it saves them from the wooden spoon, unfortunately. But what's your take on the Dragons?
I thought they made a handy start. The sin bin to Tyrell Sloan really opened the door for the Tigers to close the gap. The Tigers went on to score 2 tries in that period. From there on out, it was just a matter of holding on. These yeah, we always thought that this would be a close one between these two teams. There's not a lot between them. They're both probably clearly 1 and 2 for the poorest teams in the comp right now. So, yeah.
And your final thoughts on the Tigers?
I just think the Tigers look like a team that's foreign to winning. It's not exactly new, fresh news. We could say the same pretty much nearly every week, but they just don't look to have wins in them. I think after this one, they've pretty much got that wooden spoon locked up.
Yeah, this officially puts them out of contention of the finals now, even mathematically. So the first team that can't make the finals are the Tigers. There we go.
They were out of contention before round 1, Paul, but we like to give them mathematics.
You can't even get odds on them anymore.
Yeah. I basically rinse and repeat what I said about the Dragons. They were sloppy. Waken's poor night at the boot sealed their fate. It's going to be a long 6 weeks for them, but at least they get a trip to the majestic city of Hamilton. It's going to be tough for them, but hopefully. And Jacko said Paul's good at maths. He has to be because I don't understand numbers at all.
Yeah.
So your player to stand out, I think we picked the same guy.
I think it was pretty easy this match. Zach Lomax, he looked really good. Some really stunning passes and got a try. Perfect off the boot. So,
I went Zach Lomax as well. Accurate with the boot. Had that awesome flick pass. That we like to see. So a nice solid outing for him. Hopefully, his management are talking to him properly and he gets out of that horrible place and goes to a better team. But next game, the big game, Warriors defeating the Raiders 21-20.
Yeah, so the Raiders actually outscored the Warriors in terms of tries here, 4 tries to 3. For the Warriors, it was Murata Niokore, Chance, Nicole Klostad, and Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. He gets one every week pretty much. And the Raiders had 4 tries, Hudson Young, Jordan Rapana, Elliot Whitehead, and Jackie Whiten right near the end.
Dallin's got to keep getting those tries in bunches. I've got him at the TAB for leading try scorer for the NRL. So I need him to keep catching up. He's getting there, but he's still a bit behind.
What's he coming now?
I think he's like fourth.
He can't be. Yeah, he can't be too far off.
Dominic Young's still at the top.
Yeah, he missed a bunch of games too, so it's really impressive.
Missed the first 6 rounds.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, I've distracted myself talking about betting. I'm going. He is.
So you got some
tied third, basically.
Yeah.
He's tied third with my predicted leading try scorer from our prediction show.
Yeah.
But he's 3 behind. There's my maths going again.
There are four players on 16 tries. It gets very crowded behind Dominic Young and Khan Pereira.
Yeah.
Who are the top 2.
Khan Pereira's a rookie too. That's a pretty good start.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the game before I segue.
Trying to cut digress.
Segue. Warriors, they were under a lot of pressure in this match, but showed impressive defense and looked to have the match in the bag with only a couple of minutes to go. It was 2010. They turned off for a slight second and let the Raiders in, but had a near perfect performance in Golden Point to get the much needed win if they wish to remain in the top 4. Your thoughts on the Warriors?
I thought the Warriors, for the most part, looked the better team for much of the match. We looked clearly the better team. The last 15 minutes is definitely a concern, but the Raiders are a very good team, and it's not by mistake that they were top 4 leading into this game. They've won a lot of games. They win them close, but they're a good team. So I thought it was a good test for the Warriors that a good team, tested our resilience and fortitude, and we were able to absorb it kind of, because we still were a conversion away from losing, but we soaked up what they threw at us and then still found a way to win. So I'm hoping we take less lessons from that.
Yeah, my question to you is kind of around that, so I'll go a bit more into my thoughts on it there. But your thoughts on the Raiders?
Really strange game. I felt like there were parts of the game where the Raiders looked a little bit lost on attack at times and had errors in them, only to swing it all around with 15 minutes to go, and then they look really good all of a sudden, and obviously force Golden Point. But I think they will definitely rue the missed conversion at the end, which could have stolen the game, and Jamal Fogarty's bomb and Golden Point, which gifted us a 7 tackle set, and then from there, we didn't miss out.
Yeah, the Raiders, they had no fade this time, and they got those good tries in the second half to force Golden Point. I thought it was going to be like the perfect revenge for Jared Croker after getting humbled by the Warriors on his 300th to go to Auckland and steal the game off the Warriors when they had it in the bag, with that sideline conversion. Wasn't to be, but I think they just spent so much of that game struggling with their attacking options. They had there was some moments there where they had 4 or 5 repeat sets right on the Warriors goal line and couldn't get through. So yeah. It was a good fight back though, and then maybe some life left in the Raiders after all. And like Jacko said, Tomoko is a real talent who will get a Kiwi jersey. I went with my partner to the game, dragged her along. She doesn't know much about league, but she's slowly learning. And I said, number 4 in the green jersey, watch him, because if they don't contain him, the Warriors are in trouble. I think they did a decent effort. He was still damaging, but he didn't break them open. I was petrified of Pompey defending him all night. But Pompey did enough. If he couldn't stop him himself, he certainly slowed him down enough to get help. But yeah, he's a hell of a talent, Matt Tomoko. Your player, I know we picked different ones.
Yes. There were a few. I really loved what Chance did. And when you watch the Golden Point set, he had 2 really big carries. So, but that's just his game, a lot of tenacity and fight. But I had to go Sean for the clutch moment. And
typical. Pick a halfback. Go on.
He had his hands in our tries too. So, but then he iced the game.
Yeah, I didn't go with him because I went with the true top player of the comp right now, Adam Fanua-Blake. He was a monster out there. He played massive minutes.
Yeah.
Visibly frustrated at the Warriors letting it slip. And you saw that's when SJ kind of kicked in, and it's the new SJ that I love compared to the old one, which I despised a little. Rather than abusing his teammates when things were going wrong, he was right on Fanua-Blake's shoulder, like talking to him and getting him back in the right frame of mind. But I feel the Warriors, I don't want to say it, if something happened to Sean, I feel the Warriors would do okay. They would survive. The Warriors lose Adam Fanua-Blake, that team tanks.
Don't talk it into existence, Brad.
I know, I didn't want to say it, but I did. My bad. But yeah, I thought he was great. And Max said AFB, the supposedly $1 million Warrior.
Probably worth it.
He's one player I would pay him whatever he wanted to stay. But yeah, he's fantastic. And yeah, Mike, you see the boys fatigue from 5-day turnaround. Yeah, I think a lot of people forgot about that part. But yeah, it was good. They needed a win, and I think they needed a tough game with what's coming up. And Ruse said, leave the Nostradamus stuff to me.
Yeah. Rue did say pre-game that he had a bad feeling about that game. He nearly talked it into existence.
He almost did, yeah. But yeah, unfortunate for the Raiders, but very happy. Very happy that my Warriors got the win. Made for a better drive home in the cold. And it didn't rain. So it rained all day, and then it stopped for that few hours when the game was on, which was very, very good for me. Next game, Broncos defeating Rabbitohs 36-20.
It would help if he hadn't muted himself, of course.
You've muted yourself, Richie.
Can you hear me? Testing
Yes.
1 2. All right. I'll do that again. Katoni Staggs ×2, Selwyn Cobbo, Reece Walsh, Xavier Willison, and Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. For the Rabbitohs, Alex Johnson, Campbell Graham, Isaiah Tass.
100% professionals we are on this show.
Always.
Yeah, a bit clunky from the Broncos, I thought. They had a lot of errors. Those two sin bins made their job a bit harder than it needed to be. However, the return of Walsh and a big game from Katoni Staggs, their attack was as dangerous as ever. If they reduce those errors, they are a true premiership contender. You'll take on the Broncos.
Don't talk that into existence either. I thought they had plenty of errors in them, the Broncos, and ill discipline as well with the two sin bins. High shot from Jesse Arthurs and the crazy business, whatever Marty Tapel was doing. I don't know what he was going through his head there, but in the end, they had way too much attacking class and more than enough in defence to repel the challenge of the Bunnies.
Yeah, and your thought on the Bunnies?
They made far too many errors, but in all honesty, so did the Broncos. So I thought they looked a step or two in class behind the Broncos and looked to be really missing Latrell. I think once he comes back, he changes a lot with everything. You know, takes a lot of pressure off Lockie Ilias, who he looked to be struggling. You know, not quite at his tippity top form, but yeah. I think once they get Latrell back and firing, he rubs off on all their other playmakers as well and just completes the picture.
Yeah, Paul's just put on the stats. The Rabbits have only won 2 games in the last 10 rounds.
Yeah, one of them was us.
If I had known, when we were doing our picks last week, if I had known Latrell was going to be a late scratching, I would have picked the Broncos. I picked the Rabbits because Latrell was playing, and then they let me down, and they've let themselves down in this with their errors again. They didn't take advantage of the 20 minutes they had against 12 men. But, you know, just like you said, they're going to be hard to beat once Latrell's back.
Yeah.
Because that's just how they are.
Somebody had foresight and tipped the Broncos.
Yeah. You tipped a lot of wonky tips, and 1 or 2 of them may have gone in your favor.
Yeah.
I think we picked the same player here too, didn't we?
Yeah, Katoni Staggs just felt like he bossed the game. Had a ding-dong battle on that side, and
I think
he looks the goods right now.
Walsh was in contention, but Staggs. It was a breakout game from Staggs here, where you kind of expect what Walsh did from Walsh, so he gets a bit of a downgrade on it. But next game, Roosters defeating Titans 36-18.
Roosters defeat Titans 36-18, 6 tries to 3 for the Roosters. Egan Butcher, James Tedesco, Joseph Suali'i, Lindsay Collins, Nat Butcher, Fletcher Baker. 3 tries for the Titans. Brian Kelly, Chris Randall, Aaron Clark, all in the second half, those 3 tries.
Yeah, Roosters, they finally decided to play. They just waited 21 rounds to do it. Thought it was a very strong first half with the Roosters looking almost unstoppable. Second half was a bit more quiet, with the team switching off a bit to let the Titans in with a few soft tries. They are, believe it or not, still a slim chance of making finals, but they'll need to play more like this in order to do it. But your thoughts on the Roosters?
I thought that they finally played like the team that I had expected them to be when I was doing my preseason tips. They put the Q in the rack in the second half, however, against a team that isn't exactly known for being a second half team. But I thought they were really good in the first half. So let's see if this breathes some life back into the tricolours.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Titans?
Really, really poor first half from them. Normally the kind of display that they reserve for the second half of matches. But I give them credit for not giving up and actually winning the second half.
Yeah, they missed Big Tino here, as we all expected. They lost the battle up front, and this prevented them from being able to put together any attack. They did get those 3 tries at the end when the Roosters clocked off, so at least it wasn't a fade. Before I ask you about the guy we both picked for team of the play, I'm just quickly looking at our predictions at our top 8. And there's quite a few teams in the top 8 that aren't actually in there. So we were great. That's going to be a great review when we do that show at the end of the year.
Can't wait.
Player that stood out for us.
I'd gone Teddy. Maybe the holiday he had the week before paid off, paid dividends. I kind of was questioning it, saying why was he bailing on his team when they need to win most of their games from here on out. But yeah, clearly he needed the rest because he was really good.
His workload has been a bit overloaded with Origin and everything, but that's why he gets paid the big bucks. Both over the table and under it from the Roosters. So it's good to see him actually earning his money for once. So I thought he had a great game. Maybe it's the spark he needed, that rest, to get his team back. And like Paul said, Roosters have the Broncos, Seagulls, Dolphins, Eels, Tigers, and Rabbits. So there is a chance, but they got some tough matches in there. So we'll see. Next game, Knights beating the Storm 26-18.
Yeah, this was actually good for us too because it kept us in third spot.
It did.
It was 5-3 in the end for Newcastle. Dominic Young, Bradman Best, Greg Marju, Lachlan Fitzgibbon, and Matt Croker. 3 tries for the Storm: Nick Meaney, Trent Lero, and Justin Olam.
Yeah, upset of the round here with the Knights putting together a strong performance against one of the big boppers. They played with intent, with all players putting in a big effort instead of relying on Ponga to do it all. And they refused to let the Storm to play on their own terms. Another team that could still make the 8 if they keep playing like this. Your thoughts on the Knights?
I thought it was a massive win in the context of their season. They to knock off a top 8 side like Melbourne, it's helping them keep pace with the top 8. It should do wonders for their confidence as well. So I think if you look at their run home, they've got some games that they should back themselves. So there's still a chance.
Yeah, and your take on the Storm?
I think they've had the odd performance this year, like similar to this, which is why I don't see them as an out-and-out shot at the title this year. Now that I've said that, they'll probably prove me wrong, but they just seem to be out enthused by the Knights, who just look like they played like their season was on the line and they wanted it more.
Yeah, Jacko's made a comment before I talk about the Storm, saying like it was a massive win for the Knights, but let's be real, Storm had their worst game in the years. Yeah, I think it's more the Storm were bad than the Knights were good. I know it's a backhanded compliment, but
bit of both.
Yeah, the Storm were just unstorm-like here, which I feel I have said many times this year. It was labelled by Craig Bellamy as one of the worst efforts he's seen from his team. They just look clunky and unmotivated throughout the match, which the unmotivated part I think is really concerning this close to finals. This is when you expect those teams to go to the next level, and the fact that they're taking a back step kind of puts it in your corner about them not really intimidating anyone right now, I guess is right to say. But I do expect a massive attitude adjustment this week from them, which does make them more dangerous than normal if they respond to whatever hell Bellamy's put them through this week. Your player to stand out, I see we've gone different.
Yeah, I put Phoenix Crossland. I thought he did a really nice job out of dummy half there, and they've been missing their number one hooker for the whole year, pretty much the past couple of years. So I think he did a really good job this game.
I went with Tyson Frizzell. I thought his efforts, being like the leader of the forwards, kind of helped the Knights keep that edge on Melbourne. And he's integral. It's why they try so hard to make sure he stays with them. So yeah, thought it was a big outing from him. And Mark Roberts said Munster came out today and said that was the worst game he's played in as a Storm player. Yeah, I can't really disagree. Next game, the final game on Saturday, Cowboys continuing their run, defeating the Eels 24-16.
Yeah, what a run it is too. Was 4-3. Peter Hiku, Semi Valame with 2 tries, and Scotty Drinkwater. 3 tries for the Eels. Sean Russell, Mitchell Moses, Mr. Flat Track with 2.
Yeah, another team with a strong first half and quiet second this week with the Cowboys, but the damage was already done. Cowboys have really flicked the switch and are one of the informed teams right now, you have to say. They've got attacking threats everywhere with a lethal forward pack. They'll be needing to get back to 80-minute performances, though, with some tough matches coming up. And yeah, like Paul's just put it, Cowboys are 6 wins and 2 byes in the last 8 rounds.
Hottest team right now.
Yeah, your take on the Cowboys?
Yeah, very good first half from the Cowboys, who continue their purple patch. They look set to charge into the top 8 at this point, and I wouldn't want to be one of the teams meeting them come September. And on a side note, I already gave my thoughts, but thought Val Holmes very hard done by with his sin bin.
Yeah, he was. And your take on the Eels?
I thought it was the kind of performance that sums up the yo-yo that is the Eels, up one week, down the next. They're walking a tightrope now. I mean, they're obviously got a run in them. They had a run last year and wound up in the grand final, but they lost a lot early this year, so it's going to be tight for them.
Yeah, Eels just let the Cowboys out of the gates too easy and were simply just not good enough to stage a comeback. You just said it, world beaters 1 week and yo-yoing. They're real rocks and diamond team. They're the Adam Pompey of NRL teams. At their best, they can beat anyone, and at their worst, they look horrible. And
nice analogy.
At the moment, I can't figure out if the Eels are a title threat or cannon fodder. If they're going to potentially, if the Eels stay in the 8 for finals, they could potentially be the Sharks from last year, where they go in and they're out. They're out as quick as they got in. They're consistently inconsistent, which I feel I always say until they do a run like they did last year. But, Paul's put up the last 10 rounds, the Eels have had 6 wins, 2 losses, and 2 byes. But it's the way they lose, I think, is the big concern. But I think we picked the same player once again.
There were a few clear-cut people this round. Scotty Too Hotty, Drinkwater.
Yeah,
he's pretty much the embodiment of the purple patch they're in at the moment. His form's just crazy. Very scary.
Yeah, very, very integral to their attack as well. So yeah, I picked him too. So we'll move on to Sunday. First game, we probably don't have to talk about it that long. Panthers defeating the Bulldogs 44-18.
Yep, 8-3. Tyrone Peachy with 2. Isaiah Yeo, Brian To'o with 2. Stephen Crichton, Scotty Sorensen, and Luke Garner. 3 tries for the Bulldogs. Paul Alamotti, Jake Averillo, Jarrell Skelton.
Yeah, typical Panthers performance, as we kind of expect at this time of year when they change gear and leave everyone behind. Strong all over the park and almost able to score at the drop of the hat. As I just said, this is normally the time they go to another level, and I don't expect it to change this season. But your take on the Panthers?
Before watching the game, I was expecting at least 40, and we got what I expected. Yeah, that's what we got. They'll be very pleased to welcome back their main man, who unsurprisingly looked like he hadn't missed a week of footy. Yeah,
your take on the poor old Dogs?
Another week, another big score conceded. The best way I can sum them up this year, I think they've undershot my expectations of them this year. And they've had challenges, injuries, so has everybody. But with their recruitment, with supposedly the the next best thing coming in as coach. You know, who was supposed to be the better Penrith assistant coach. They've really undershot. Where I think I tipped them. Did I tip them to finish 8th?
You're stealing it. I'm just about to announce that when I talk.
Right.
So I'm just looking at our top 8 predictions, and we both hit the Bulldogs at 8th.
I think we went off a bit early on the Bulldogs, didn't we? A couple more years yet.
We went off a bit early on a few teams looking at that. Not much to say here. The Bulldogs have struggled for a while, and we're never a chance to compete against Penrith anyway. Doggies fans continue to count down to 2024 when they'll basically have an entire new roster, but similar to the Warriors from this year, where we had a big clean out. And maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Mark Roberts said people in fantasy wouldn't have loved the Chin's performance on the weekend. I didn't even see what he got in fantasy. I unfortunately had Nico Hines, who we're about to talk about soon, who didn't do that well. But your player to stand out, since Mark's already kind of talked about him.
Yeah, I put the Chin. I just 51 points. There you go. He's the whole organization's crazy, but I think he's been missing since Origin. Was it Origin 1? He comes back and just controls that team, and they had me very worried about where things are going to end up at the end of the year. I don't want to be seeing them lifting another trophy, but it's a pretty big reality.
Yeah, I went with Brian Dortwell. I thought it was a strong outing for him. I know Jacko's mentioned James Fisher-Harris and Moses Leota.
They always do. They always do.
And that's why Mr. Cleary can do what he can do, because those big boys do the work up front. But it also allows guys like Tortwell to kind of spread their legs and go. And, thought it was great. He had an interesting try celebration, which was good for a laugh. Exciting yet dangerous team, which takes us to the last game of the round. Manly holding on as best as they can to beat the Sharks 30-26.
Yeah, it was a really exciting game too. Before I talk about the try scorers, I was cheering Manly on very hard because that was better for the. Well, no, yeah, I did think thanks for that.
For the Warriors.
I wasn't even going to say that. I was just going to say that it was better for the Warriors, but you're right. I did pick that. Don't mean to toot my own horn, but it was 6 tries to 5. For Manly, Josh Eloy, Lockie Croker, Olukwatu, Kohler, Garrick, and Kohler. Again, he grabbed 2. 5 tries for the Sharkies, all in the second half as they forged a huge comeback. Renato Mulitalo, Sione Katoa, Cam McInnes, Jesse Ramey, and Will Kennedy.
Yeah, so Manly desperately needed the win here, and that impressive first half looks certain to get the job done. But allowing 5 tries in that second half is a massive concern. But they at least look like a team, more like a team right now, which is something we're not used to with Tommy Turbo's not there. They were working as a good unit. And, apart from letting those tries in, I think they'll go into this round a bit more confident. They've kind of got an easy-ish game this week against the worst team in the comp, the Dragons. But what's your take on Manly?
I thought their first half was massive. At half-time, it looked like the score could be anything, could have been a cricket score. Then the second half rolled around, and at the end there, they looked out on their feet, and they did just enough to preserve their lead at full time. Just enough. Yeah, that's all. They did just enough to help us stay third. So great result.
Your thoughts on the Sharks?
Their second half comeback was impressive, but I thought in this game, all of their flaws were on display in that first half. Their left side defense been highly talked about. To say it was wonky is putting it nicely, but it has been like that all year. It's cost them another game here, pretty much.
Yeah, all of the same that you said about that defense and the left side, but they didn't look great here, but they almost stole the match with a strong final 10 minutes. Team needs Nico Hines to be at his best to be successful, and it's clear that Manly and the officials both got under his skin, and he started to fall apart. The fall from grace from the Shark continues, and they could keep falling hard the next 6 rounds. They could fall all the way out of finals, but your player that stood out?
I put Lockie Croker. Thought he was really good at a dummy half. Got a try assist, 40-20. That first half he was running really hot.
Yeah, I went with DCE, like how you picked SJ. I think DCE just did well orchestrating his team around the park. Another strong outing for the State of Origin champion that he is. So I'm just writing down Simon's picks, but that will take us to the end of the round. So we'll look at the ladder pool. So I think you did top 8 last. You did top 8 last week, didn't you?
I did top 8.
I'll get to do it this week, so I get to talk about the Warriors. So Penrith remain at number 1 at 32 points. Brisbane also 32, but second due to points differential. The Warriors have moved up to third place on 28 points. Melbourne are also on 28, but fourth due to points differential. Canberra fifth, also on 28. Cronulla are 26 points at 6th place. Cowboys also 26 points at 7th. And Parramatta 8th with 24 points.
That's a gorgeous top half of the ladder there. The bottom half goes like this. The Rabbitohs have fallen out of the 8. They're sitting in 9th and just eagerly awaiting Latrell to return. 10 and 11 is Newcastle Knights and Manly Sea Eagles. The Roosters, with their win on the weekend, have moved up to 12th. Dolphins 13th. Gold Coast Titans have slumped to 14th. The Dragons have bumped up to 15th place, beaten the Tigers. The Bulldogs have dropped to 16th, and I think the West Tigers pretty much have that wooden spoon on lock. They're a couple of wins short of the next of the Bulldogs now. So, do they have any buys left? I'm not even sure they have buys left.
No, their buys are all gone.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I think now we can basically say the top 8 is a battle with the top 9 teams. There is still a chance for Newcastle, Manly, and the Roosters, but I don't see it happening. And yeah, Mark said we can't drop any further than 4th after this weekend. Yeah, that's the benefit of having a decent points differential, is that you get the 2 points for the bye, but you don't get more points differential. So you could slide even though you get the points. But yeah, unless Melbourne, if Melbourne and the Raiders put on Raiders are screwed. They're negative 56. They would have to put on a massive score to even come near our points differential. But we should still be in the top 4. It's the worst that could happen is we drop to 4th, which isn't bad. But yeah, very happy. Table I did not expect this time of year, to say the least. So we'll move on to the tips, Paul.
Look at that.
No star for Richie because he's still got a couple wrong. But a fall from grace from Mr. Perfect Brad this week. But Simon got 50%, 4 out of 8. So he's still leading at 98 out of 156.
Sorry, what? Mr. Perfect?
Mr. Perfect.
Who ever called you Mr. Perfect?
Me last week when I got 7 out of 7.
Mr. Gold Star.
The Mr. Gold Star. But yeah, you don't come in and rain on my parade, Paul. I got 4 out of 8 as well. 1 behind on 97 out of 156. And then Richie deciding to pick all the silly options, got 5 out of 8, and has narrowed the gap between me and him at 92 out of 156. So well done. It shows that, an idiot can do okay sometimes.
I might throw some more darts at the dartboard this week. Let's see.
Yeah. So obviously encouraging everyone's delusions. And Jacko says, I want a pay rise. I always want a pay rise. So before we go into questions, I'll just do a quick rundown of the NRLW. A bit like Super League, we'll just kind of say the scores as opposed to going into the matches, just due to Paul, wanting us to cut down time instead of extending to a 5-hour show. But the Titans defeated the Cowboys 16-6. The Knights defeated the Dragons 32-16. The Roosters defeated the Broncos 36-18. The Tigers defeated the Eels 36-8. And the Sharks defeated the Raiders 28-14. So the Tigers are number one in the women and dead last in the men. So
Did you catch Matty Boyle? Did you watch it?
I did catch it, and I was really impressed with a lot of the celebrations from the Tigers. They really put a lot of work into their Try July celebrations. But thought it was a great first week. I still think the Roosters are going to be the team to beat. Just because the talent they have. The Knights are defending champs, and I think they've still got a lot of good talent too.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Roosters Knights final.
Yeah, the one game I caught in full on the weekend was the Knights Dragons game. I thought the Knights were impressive. I was interested in that game because they had the NZ7 star Taylor Nathan Wong playing for the Dragons. She scored a try, but
she did well.
I thought the Knights looked really good though.
Yeah, and former Warriors NRLW member Matty Bartlett is the leading try scorer in NRL history now, after getting a try for the Raiders. Jacko said hard to get really interested in the women's game without the Warriors in it. Mark said Richie's trying to be like the Waz in previous years, keeping in mathematical chance of a top echelon with the tipping.
Always got to keep that calculator out.
Yeah, and John's also said the NRLW try celebrations were better than the men's. Yeah, they were. There was like limbo and all sorts. Very interesting. So hopefully we get some more good games in the oncoming weeks from the women's game. But we'll go into questions. Any questions from the group, Paul?
Yeah, a couple. Since you asked for a pay rise, you can hand over the sponsorship from NXP, whoever they are. So Nicholas wants to know who NXP is. Since
it's where I work.
There you go, folks. Now you can track him down. And complain to his boss and say, "Hoy, is this the kind of representation you want on the internet of your employees?"
I'm worse there than I am here, so it's fine. I didn't change. I didn't change. I'm sorry.
I didn't change. Jeez. Harley wants to know: do you think API is wasted talent at? API is wasted talent at the Tigers.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Everyone that's at the Tigers is a wasted talent at the Tigers, to be fair. I think, he's a wasted talent there, but he could potentially, if they fix all the office bullshit, he could help them become something a little bit better than what they are. I don't see them.
It's a huge if.
It's a massive if, but he's a talented player. But it's like in the old days, a lot of the good players that would come to the Warriors, and you'd be like, well, why are you ruining your career by going there? That's kind of what's happening with Uppy right now. But they're willing to pay him a lot of money, so he's wasted there. But his bank's going to be happy about it.
Bjorn, what's the boys' choice of beverage and feed when watching the Warriors at home? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You're Red Lion, aren't you, Brad? Or Lion Red, sorry.
No, I don't drink. I only drink that stuff if I have to at the game.
That's what we're saying. Your choice of drink, beverage, and food at Warriors home games.
Warriors home games.
If I remember correctly, Brad likes the chicken and chips.
Yep, chicken and chips. Mount Smart started doing squid and chips too, which I'm a bit of a fan of. So,
Yeah, and whatever beer is available. When I was going with you, it was Carlsberg, I think it was. Probably changed now.
Yeah, I can't remember. What was it, Paul? You bought it for me this time.
Yeah, it was lime red.
was lime
I had
red.
Panhandle. Actually, no, I think I had mid ale because I was driving. But yeah, Panhandle is there, which I would have gone for otherwise.
Whatever beer is cheapest is what I generally go for.
Do you think Tim Sheen's to go back to retirement?
Yes,
I think Tim Sheen's is already retired now.
And Jacko, talking about the question here about the run into the finals. So the remaining games for the Warriors are the Titans, Tigers, Eagles, Dragons, Dolphins. So all teams in the bottom half of the table, with the Sea Eagles in 11th as being their supposed highest opposition. Is that a good thing or a bad thing heading into the finals, having that run in the final 5 games of all lower tier or lower table teams?
I think it's good for where it could have us finish. In terms of tough competition heading into finals, probably not. But if we finish in a spot where we end up playing finals games at home, we're going to get a massive vocal crowd, and hopefully that spurs us on, and we jag a win, and we're a game away from the grand final.
Yeah, normally I'd say it's bad having a soft run. It's never soft. As Mark said, Eagles and Dolphins are our banana skin games. The Eagles game is the one game I'm truly worried about in the run home. But with Webster, I think Webster, it doesn't matter how easy or how hard the draw is, he's going to have them where he needs them for finals. So I think it doesn't matter about the draw. We can't help it. It's not our fault the NRL screwed us at the start of the year with the draw and assumed we wouldn't make finals. So they gave us an easy run with a lot of home games, so we didn't have to go to Australia, because why? It's kind of worked in our favor. But yeah, it is what it is. We can't help it. But Webster, I've got all my faith in Webster. So I'm sure he will make sure that they're not going in overconfident.
Well, and there was me thinking about coming up to that, maybe coming up to that Warrior, that Sea Eagles game to watch it with you if I was allowed. After the last time I was there for a loss, but clearly
you're not.
I'm not allowed now for that one.
You're banned.
Oh no!
One
game
for life.
Yep. Deary me. Could
have been the other way. If we had won that game, you would have had to come to every game. So
Bjorn, actually, sorry, he was wrong. What do you drink at home or eat at home and watching the?
If I'm drinking beer, it's usually like an export or something.
But would you be drinking beer, or are you taking so many notes because you're writing and stuff that you're being professional and working?
A lot of time at home, it's just a coffee because I am taking notes. And food, it depends on the time of day. If it's like a Friday night, I might get takeaways. If it's a Saturday or Sunday, I'll probably cook something in the slow cooker and have it ready.
Richie, the family man, with the kids around, are you a beers watching, or are you having to again coffees?
I do enjoy a beer, but again, it depends on what day our game falls on. If it's a Sunday afternoon game, I just quite like having a Sunday family dinner after the game. But yeah, if it's a Friday night, definitely have a couple of beers to go with the game, or a whiskey, a single malt.
Single malt. Oh, there we go. The hot stuff. Coffee is Brad's slang for alcohol. No, that's not, unfortunately.
No, I have a bigger coffee problem than I have alcohol problem. So yeah, I drink far too much coffee. Paul is a union guy drinking wine out of a flash glass.
This is Spates out of the beer glasses that New World were giving away for free when you collected your stamps. So that's the glass. That's the questions from the live chat, guys.
Oh, good. So we'll go with your question first because it's an absolute doozy that I haven't got an answer for yet, but I'll try. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Off the cuff answer. I like it.
Yeah.
So after another clutch moment on the weekend, Sean Johnson's looking a very real chance at becoming the second Warriors player to win a Dally M. If he does go on to clinch the award, where does SJ fit in your all-time Warriors player list?
It's hard because my Warriors player list is probably a lot different to everyone else's due to my decision. Like the number one Warrior for me always is Paliacina, who probably is not even on anywhere.
He's not a prop, okay? So he's going to be outside the top 20.
Yeah,
he's nowhere near the top 20.
Well, yeah, you say that though. Like Paliacina is my number one, not the greatest player by any stretch of the imagination, but he just has always been my favorite player. And my list for my personal list is kind of skewed that way, where it's all players that probably aren't the top 10. Right. But in terms of all time, taking my personal bias out of it, I would have Simon Mannering as number one, Stacey number two. I would put Steve Price 3 and then Sean 4. Just he's definitely top 5. But you still got all the ups and downs that we had with Sean. If it was the Sean we've had this year consistently, he'd be number one. But he's not. But Simon was week in, week out the same guy every week. And Steve Price, I think, brought so much to the Warriors on the field and off it when he came here. And Stacey. I'd comfortably have him in 4.
So the only Warriors that ever win the Daily M so far isn't in your top 5.
He's number 5, Roger.
Number 5. RTS was number 5. Okay.
Roger left. He left us to go to Union, so he got some points deducted. He can go up that rank when he returns next year. But where's he on your list before I give him?
I like your list actually. I like your list. Of
course you do.
I have this. That is a good list. I have the same top 2. I could go either way. They could interchange. So Mannering, Stacey. I'm a massive Price fan as well, but I think I put SJ3. If he wins a Dally M and takes us to another grand final, I think that bumps him up.
Yeah.
Then I'm looking at RTS's Pricey, those kind of guys.
Yeah, Lucky, Campion, those guys.
Yeah.
My question for you, it kind of goes on from the game in the weekend just gone, but with the Warriors' performance against the Raiders, are you more or less confident in how they'll go in finals?
It depends how we react to certain moments of that game. We fell into a bit of a hole towards the end, but I felt we, remained composed enough to steel ourselves and come back and win it at the death and golden point, which bodes well for the finals because, if we find ourselves in a tight game, we know we've got a player and Sean that he's got a good field goal in him. We've seen that many times. So, I wouldn't say I'm any more or less confident. I think I've been the same level of confident the past few weeks. I think we're on a really good run. You take the Souths game out of the picture, which
Paul for us. Yep.
I look at that game as a bit of an anomaly. Wet weather and we just went on, but that I don't think that's any indication of how we've been playing this year. So I'm still confident. I think if we play well enough to get a home finals match, I think we can give it a good shake.
Yeah, I came out of it more confident, which I found weird. Like we were talking with Ruin Hammer as the game ended, and it was conflicting emotions. Happy, but why did it go to golden point? And I came out completely happy. I wasn't upset at all, which made it very hard to do the review when you're trying to be critical of how they let a 10-point lead slip. But they needed it. Jacko talked about it, about the next couple of rounds. The next couple of rounds, you can never say easy, but they're they're easier than a lot of people have compared to other teams or bottom 8 sides we're facing. So I think they needed a bit of resistance. If they had gone on and won by 10, 20 points, and then had games where they potentially could get 30, 40 points every week, if they play like they have been against the bottom 8 sides, they don't have any true tests. But getting forced to Golden Point, and then the way they played in Golden Point, where they defended a set really well, had one set where they were perfect, marching up the field, getting the win. It gave them a bit of resistance and showed that when we're under the pump, we can still do it. So in a situation of finals where that does happen, they've got that in the back of their mind going, no, we can do this, rather than, it's been easy for us. Now that we've got a bit of resistance, we fall apart. So I'm confident that it's the lesson they needed. I'm a lot happier for them to learn that lesson while still winning, as opposed to losing and learning that lesson. So and I'm confident. But
I just hope we learn little lessons out of that. That's all I hope. That last 3-minute period, it just seemed like we clocked off when Rapana put that little grubber through, and on the last try when Fogarty threw the wide ball and Dallin just turned in off his winger, off Chris, sorry, I think, and let Chris get down the flank. I don't know why Dallin turned in on the centre. He didn't need to. So hopefully, I'm hoping Webby pulls that apart, in the way that he does, and shows them the video and they take lessons out of it. Speaking of video, did you catch the podcast with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in it, talking about the old coaching regime and how they didn't,
how unprofessional we were?
Yeah, that was an interesting chat, eh?
It was very eye-opening, and very happy that it's not like that anymore. But it's sounded very amateur. It was like a local club where you turned up to train and go home. So very concerning that that was the Stephen Cooney and era, and I don't know, he should have known better from where he'd been coaching, but I don't know. It's definitely not that way now. So that's good. And before we move on to round 22, there is a comment from Mark about me saying that he's saying that SJ's behind Kane Evans. For me, a few years ago, I challenged Kane Evans to a boxing fight on this show, and he hasn't responded. So I don't know what's going on. A bit of money towards the show would have been good, but he's a bit of a coward. He only likes, fighting people he knows he can't beat, or that he can beat. Sorry. So I don't know. And Jacko said, that interview with RTS was very eye-opening. We were amateur hour for sure. So Paul probably doesn't know. There was a podcast with RTS, and he talked about when he first came to the Warriors. He was used to
no more promoting other people's podcasts again. Jeez,
it's what I do. It's at least it's a podcast I haven't been on, at least, Paul. yet. But he said he came from the Roosters, where they they did video work and prep as well as training, which is the norm for all professional sport. And then he came to the Warriors, and you would have training and then go home. There was no prep. And he said there was even times when he was trying to give advice to his wingers about the guy you're facing does this. And the response from his winger was, "Who am I playing?" It's not like that anymore. So I'm the sponsor of this podcast is other podcasts. But it's not like that now. But then he also said when he
it's an hour and a half in, we haven't even started the next round preview.
Yeah, but he did say, let me finish. He did say when he went from the Warriors to rugby union, it was another step. He said he'd go to the prep, and he was there with his pen and pad, and all the other players had iPads doing their notes and multiple laptops and stuff doing their prep. So he said it's another level. So maybe he helps bring some of that into the Warriors. I don't know. It clearly didn't help the Blues, did it? So it doesn't really matter. But
wow.
But that's enough. I'll get off my soapbox. We'll go into round 22 now. So we've got our fixtures up. We've got Simon via Paul giving us his picks. But first game on Thursday, Broncos Roosters. I've gone with Broncos. Roosters look good, but I think Broncos, they got Walshy back. They're at another level compared to the poor old Roosters.
Yep, Broncos. Put another dagger in Roosters' final chances.
Roosters look good. They've won one game in the last 5 rounds.
And that game, they look good.
Sometimes that's all it takes. One game.
You're only as good as your last ball.
God, dear. The chicken's going to get trampled into the ground under the horse's hooves. This is a Broncos all day.
Broncos.
If the Roosters won here, it would be very handy for us. But next game.
Well, it wouldn't be for a multi, would it? We've already started off with one.
Next game, Tigers versus Rabbits. I've gone with Rabbits. Latrell's back and they're playing the Tigers.
Yeah, easy choice, Rabbits.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just Tigers for quite a lot. Toothless Tigers. Rabbitohs all day. Killer Rabbits.
Last game on Friday, Storm Eels. I've gone with Storm. I think they're going to bounce back from that loss with a vengeance.
It's a good game. I'm going Eels.
Could happen.
They like playing the Storm.
Both teams 2-2 over the last sort of 5 rounds. So 2 wins, 2 losses, and a bye. But yeah, look, Storm definitely going to bounce back.
Yeah. Next game, we've got Raiders Knights. I've gone with the Raiders. It was a flip of the coin one, and I've gone with home team.
Good game.
Yeah, should a very good game.
I'm going Knights.
Yeah, let's go Green Machine. Raiders definitely.
And then easiest game of the round to pick: Dragons versus Sea Eagles. I'm going with Sea Eagles because I don't pick Dragons.
I'm tempted to go Dragons. I'll go Manly. Behave, Richard.
Yeah, look, it's the Dragons, right? So yeah, Dragons, Bulldogs, and Tigers you always go against. Simple as that.
Yep. Next game up: Panthers Sharks. Panthers. Sharks don't beat top 8 sides.
Yeah, Panthers.
Yeah, Panthers don't lose. Who cares who they're playing?
Yeah, that's true.
They lose to the Tigers.
Panthers. Okay. So they're very multis by doing that. But Panthers 4-0 from the last 5 is their form record. So, yep, they're in good form.
Next up, Bulldogs Dolphins. Going with the Dolphins. This one could go either way, but I think the Dolphins have more to offer than the Bulldogs.
Agree. Dolphins.
Yep, I mean, Dolphins all day. So those bottom 3 teams are off the bottom for a reason.
Yeah, and then the last game, Titans Cowboys. I've gone with Cowboys. They're on a roll. I don't see the Titans stopping it.
Yeah, especially without Tino. Cowboys.
Yep, again, Cowboys the other form team at the moment, 4-0 so far, which means we've only got one different this week. Which means the multi is
7-game multi.
Did we have a 7-game multi?
Yep.
We did. You only disagreed on the Storm Eels game.
No, I disagreed on I went Knights Raiders.
Oh, no, yeah.
Knights.
Sorry, yeah. There's 6 games, Paul. Yeah, Eels and Knights, we went different.
Oh, it's too late now. I've already put it on.
That's fine. It's fine.
As long as if Knights get the win, I get my credit.
Wait, you still get your...
It's on record. It's on camera.
It's on my little book that I've got here.
If I'm lucky, it'll. I mean, credit as in we acknowledge that you made a different choice. Absolutely, yeah.
If you pick the Knights, you still get it because I've got it all on my little notebook. So
nice.
I keep it all on track to make sure it's honest. But yeah, interesting multi. I put my 18 multi in this morning, so we'll see what happens. So before we go into Super League, NRLW, there we go. We got the multi for $2. What is it? $16.56?
$16.96.
96. Sorry.
We'll return.
So
yep.
We'll get this one, and then we're in the green. So
yep. And the Panthers aren't the lowest odds. The lowest odds are actually the Rabbits because they're playing the Tigers. There you go.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So the NRLW round 2 starts on Thursday as well. Broncos versus Titans on Thursday. Saturday, we've got 2 games, the Raiders and Roosters and the Dragons and Eels. And then on Sunday, we have the Knights, Cowboys, Tigers, Sharks. So there should be some good matches there. As always, I'll be watching the Roosters. because of Millie. And Paul said, "Is this a record long show?" No, I think we were like an hour 45 last week.
Yeah.
Shut up and
we
don't
went
talk.
long
Let's
last
just move. Get on with it.
So, what do you reckon? How long can we drag the Super League out for, Richie?
Let's do a deep dive on the NRLW.
Yeah. So no, Super League. The Challenge Cup final was set, and we were completely wrong with our picks last week, Richie.
Yeah.
With Lee and Hull KR getting the job done, and they will meet in the final on the 12th of August. So Lee defeated St. Helens 12-10, and Hull KR defeated Wigan 11-10.
Really interesting final.
Final I don't think many people picked, but well-deserved Lee and Hull KR. And Paul saying both of us getting our picks wrong. What a surprise! Yeah,
that's what we do.
That's what we do. So round 20 of the Super League starts up again. This week we've got Uddersfield versus Hull FC, Hull KR versus Castleford, St. Helens versus Leeds, Wigan versus Lee, Catalans versus Salford, and Wakefield versus Warrington. So some good matchups there. I assume we might see St. Helens and Wigan try to get some revenge back this week. Get back on the winning ways. But anything else you want to add before we let everyone go?
No, thanks for the chat, everybody. Very fun. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul, for doing what you do.
And it's the last tough weekend we have with no Warriors games. So it's going to be interesting. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on the Standoff with Brad and Richie. We're here for your weekly update on Rugby League next week at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Just tune into Facebook, YouTube, all those places, or your convenience on iHeartRadio or Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers again for joining me, Richie, and thank you, Paul, for all your input and help in the background. And good night, everyone.